Hey, pilot, welcome back to Ready for Pushback Solo Show. My name's Nick Fialka. If it's your first time here, what's going on? I'm stoked you're with me today. This is the Thursday solo show. Monday, I'll see you for the interview. And I am talking about flight training today, one of the most important parts of aviation. And I want to speak directly to how you end up choosing a flight school or what avenue you take, because you can do a bunch of different ways to get where you want to go and to get to the airlines if that's your dream or wherever that dream takes you. There are a lot of different ways you can skin that cat.
Most pilots don't understand what career opportunities are available in the world of aviation. They're making career decisions based on advice from friends or posts on internet forums, meaning they are taking huge risks with their livelihood without having all the details. This podcast was created to help you understand the aviation industry so you can find your dream job. Let's get ready for Pushback. Here's your host and my dad, Nick Fialka.
The general sense is like you can pay with time or you can pay with money. And I want you to think about that for a little bit. When I say you can pay with time, man, you could get free flight school. You could go get free flight school and get the best flight training anywhere in the world. But all you've got to do is join the military and give them a decade of your life. And you'll get some free flight training. And it'll be awesome flight training. And you'll go fly a cool plane. But if your final goal is the airlines, it's gonna really delay your potential start in aviation as a 121 pilot, because it just takes a long time. Now, there are different ways around that. One of them, I think about joining the Air National Guard and becoming a guard bum and getting paid to go to flight training, but also having the opportunity to just be a reservist and build your hours like that. And you know, there is opportunity there, and there's great opportunity there. So, if that is something you're interested in, then you should certainly go check it out and go look at the Guard squadrons and see what there is. If it's not, and you want to join the regular military and go fly Hornets or the JSF or something crazy, or maybe you want to fly C-130s or C-5s or maybe even helicopters like me. Oh my gosh. Well, there's opportunity for that, and they need you. They're happy to have you. As long as you can pass all the medical stuff, come on. They'll give you a flight suit, leather jacket, and send you on your way. They're just going to hold on to you. So that's the first part of this is, that's one avenue, one way you could do it. Another way you could do it, you can go down the path and go to college, go to a 4-year school. You could go to Emory-Riddle, or maybe you could go to Auburn or University of North Dakota. Lots of different schools. I know everybody at Purdue is trying to get me to say Purdue. So Purdue, and I can't list them all, but there are 4-year college programs out there that you can take, and you can get far along on your flight training. The good part about this is it's a little easier to get loans, probably at a lower interest rate to go do this, and you're going to have a 4-year degree at the end of it. The kind of the negative effect of that is the fact that it is a 4-year. It does take 4 years. So it takes 4 years to get this training, to get your hours, and you're going to come out kind of at different parts, different amounts of hours, I guess we'd say. So it just kind of depends how each school is structured and what they offer. There are also some community colleges around the U.S. that have flight programs, and I highly encourage people to take a look at those. I don't know them off the top of my head, but there are quite a few, and their rates are even more competitive. They're heavily subsidized by the state. So check those out. Definite opportunities there. Some people might be thinking that, hey, to be a 121 pilot or any kind of professional pilot, I don't really need to have a 4-year degree. And that's true. You don't need a bachelor's degree. If your goal is to fly for an airline, none of them have that requirement anymore. However, it's a discriminator. Having a degree is a discriminator. It adds extra points onto your application. And so it just kind of depends on how strong your application is to whether or not you need those points. And if you have the opportunity to snag those points, then do it. If you don't, then you've got to do other things to build those points up, because when they're looking at your application, they're evaluating you, they're giving you points for this and points for that, and they're taking away points for your DUI, and they're taking away points for your failure or whatever it is, but they're adding points for the complexity of the aircraft you've flown, the amount of hours you've flown, having that degree, advanced degrees, that kind of stuff. So it's not a make or break, but it certainly is one of the levers that an airline can pull to choose whether or not you are competitive enough to get an interview. So that's one more thing to consider. Now we go into the world of Part 141 flight schools and Part 61 flight schools, and I'm just going to kind of break it down simply, right? There are flight schools out there that have a good product, that have a good track record, that will give you solid training, and they're known for that. And there are other places out there that are like puppy mills that will push a pilot through, and they have a very quick 0 to hero policy on how they're going to get you to where you're going to be. And you need to understand what kind of school you're getting into, because if you choose the 0 to hero route and it's a puppy mill type school, you've got to be ready to rock, and you've got to be on your game, because there are instances where a flight school will take you on. You'll sign all the financial aid forms, they'll give you a loan, and you will start flight training. And at some point, there have been instances of people who have struggled, and the school has dropped them and basically disenrolled them from the school and stuck that person with the financial aid loan that they had taken out and give 12, 15, 16% loan. And the person is stuck having to pay that back, and they're kind of up a creek without a paddle, and that's a terrible place to be. So it's an amount of risk that is associated with that type of school, and you need to know what it is before you get into it. There are other schools out there, lots of great flight schools. I mean, so many great flight schools in the United States, and you just need to know what their reputations are. And if they have a solid reputation, if they have good instructors, if they have a DPE that's available to give check rides, and how long it takes and what the curriculum's like. You just want to get involved. You want to get an understanding of what the flight school is offering, because those are the things that matter. And those are the things that are going to be the make and break of the next, however long it takes you to get through the program. Also, does that school have openings and opportunities for flight instructors after you're done training? That's important to know, because if they just have their people and there's no opportunities there, and you live somewhere that's far away from other opportunities, then you might be having to move and find your own way around aviation. And so know where you live, know where your opportunities are currently, and your future opportunities, where they could come from, and try to project that out. It's a really smart thing to kind of have a big, broad look at what you want to do in aviation. And your flight training is such an important part of that. And the last little opportunity you could do 61 flying is if you got some guy or gal like me that is a CFI and a CFII, certified flight instructor or instrument instructor, or a multi-engine instructor, and you work a curriculum just with that person to get you through your ratings, and you pay somebody. It's probably the cheapest way to do it because, you probably come up with a plane to rent, or maybe they even have their own aircraft, or maybe you bought your own aircraft and you have a person that you can rely on that might offer you a great deal, might offer you opportunities to fly for really cheap. However, there are pitfalls with that too, because you need to have a really clear understanding of what the FAA is going to ask of you for each of your certifications along the way, whether it's your private pilot or your instrument pilot or whatever that step is. If that person that is a certified flight instructor is not training you to the ACS, is not training you to understand what the evaluator is going to be looking for, then it's just a disservice to you. So you need to make sure that that person that you are flying with, that is your certified flight instructor, even though it might be the cheapest way to do it, it might be also the most risky, because you may or may not get that knowledge that is available in a structured flight school that gets pilots from here to there efficiently and effectively. And so you need to know that, and you need to think about that, and you need to be smart on that, because if you're not, you're just throwing your money away. And the worst thing you could do is just have a failure and have to start over at zero and have spent all that money and now have a mark on your record, and that's where you are. So understand that and know it, and realize that those are the things that to consider. One thing that I haven't mentioned is the restricted ATP minimums that the FAA offers. This restricted ATP opportunity that's offered is a really cool thing. And so basically it goes like this. If you do certain types of flight training, the FAA will authorize you to have a restricted ATP and be hired by a Part 121 carrier earlier than the 1,500-hour rule that applies to most pilots. If you go to a Part 61 school, then you're kind of stuck with that 1,500 rule. So I pulled them up in front of me, and I kind of want to read them out so that you know what they are. All right. So if you're a military pilot and you are coming out with 750 hours, boom, you win. You don't have to get 1,500 hours for ATP, 750 for military pilots. It's the lowest number, and that is mostly because of the difficulty of the flight training that people have to go through. So that's that. College graduates, if you have a bachelor's degree in aviation, it's 1,000 hours. If you have an associate's degree in aviation, it's 1,250 hours. Still a good score. Let's see here. If you have 30 to 59 credit hours of approved aviation coursework, it's 1,250 hours. And pilots with 60 or more credit hours of approved aviation coursework is 1,000 hours. But remember, to hold that restricted ATP, you've got to be 21 years old. You've got to pass the knowledge test, and then you've got to you've got to pass the ATP CTP course, and have a commercial pilot certificate and an instrument rating. So those are all the things you need for restricted ATP, but you can get it, and that's a big score. So knowing that ahead of time, I would consider that as you go down your path and figure out what it is you want to do for training and how valuable it is. So think about that, consider it, and I hope it helps you out. That's a long way to say. Thanks for listening to the show, and I'll see you again on Monday. Hey, pilot, before you go, make sure that you take a quick second, like and subscribe to the podcast. If you are watching on YouTube, thank you so much. If you're listening on one of the podcast streaming services, you guys are the best. So please like it, subscribe to it, and maybe, if you have a chance, write a quick review and tell everybody what you think about the Ready for Pushback podcast. Thanks.